Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling, and I'm your host. The other day, the Liberals went into Southern Ontario to announce another plant being opened up by Honda, I think it was this time, and how they're going to make the world a better place with all these electric batteries. They don't talk about the environmental impact of making batteries. They don't talk about the environmental impact of trying to recycle batteries. They don't talk about the environmental impact of how much these, or the financial impact, excuse me, of how much these batteries cost. They don't talk about any of that. Just say, look, we're opening a new plant. And I have a couple of things to say about that. And I just want to point out that at this time, though, they were there with Doug Ford because, you know, it's his province and you have to, despite all the times that they've talked, you know, so much dislike of the conservative anywhere, they had to bring him in because, you know, without the Premier of Ontario, what good is it, right? You gotta get just as many tax breaks and just as many zoning rights and all that stuff from the province. The federal government doesn't have that jurisdiction. They can offer them tax breaks, but they can't offer them any zoning breaks. They can't offer them so many of the other things that go along with that, right? And there's a reason that they put them all in Southern Ontario, but I'll get into that in a minute. Before I get into it, though, I would just like to encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this channel with your friends. I have memberships and I've started a GoFundMe for some better equipment so that I can expand and improve my show. Now, Doug Ford and MP Champagne and MP Trudeau were basically front and center of this group. There was a few other dignitaries in the background, but for the most part, these were the three guys that were getting all the questions. And one of the reporters asked Doug Ford a question about an unrelated, like not related to the EV. So that's just, man, and he doesn't care. He just lets go with what he feels. And you can almost see the Liberals want to reach out and just pull the microphone away from him, you know, pull the electricity out. All right, let's watch this.
Ford, my question is about cars, but about car theft. How is the threat of suspending a driver's license actually going to make a difference in stopping auto theft? Somebody who's willing to steal a car probably isn't worried about the consequences of driving without a license.
Well, thanks for the question. I've said right from the beginning, we look at bail reform, and we worked well with the federal government on bail reform, worked well with the Minister LeBlanc on that as well, making sure we tighten up Montreal Port, which again, we've worked well with Minister LeBlanc on that as well. I believe in mandatory sentences. Someone's going in, stealing your car or kicking your doors in, putting a gun to your head, which has happened on numerous occasions. They should be going to jail immediately. What we've seen here in Ontario, people committing crimes, heinous crimes, and they're out on bail. Not once, not twice, 3, 4, 5 times. It's absolutely ridiculous. So the solution, there's many solutions, but one is making sure when we catch these criminals, we throw them behind bars and keep them there and discourage the rest of them to do the same thing. But I'm tough on crime.
So right in front of the two ministers that just announced this big Honda opening a battery plant in Southern Ontario, the reporter tries to burn him about the driver's license because one of the things that you're trying to do is say, oh, well, if you've been convicted, maybe we can strip your driver's license away. But he's like, no, the problem is that there's too much bail going on. There's too many people getting out on crime and too much revolving doors, which is exactly the argument the federal Liberals have been having with the Conservatives the whole time, right? The Conservatives have been saying, no, you passed C-75 and C-5, which allows people to do house arrest or which allows people to get out of jail for a couple of different crimes. And they just keep going revolving. They get out on bail and they're committing crimes while they're out on bail. There's no tracking, there's none of that stuff, and you need to be tougher on crime. And the Liberals were, you know, that call you every kind of ist in the book. But Doug Ford just stands up in the middle of his province and says, no, I don't agree with them, even though they're standing right beside me. I don't really care. I'm just going to tell you the truth because that's the way I want to be. And you could see the faces on them, especially Champagne. Like, I don't know. I don't think Trudeau knew what to do. Like, I don't think that he knows what to do if his handlers aren't there to tell him exactly where to stand and at what time to have a drink of water and all that kind of stuff. But MP Champagne clearly saw what it was for the writing that was on the wall right away. And he was he was basically staring daggers into the back of Premier Ford. That was pretty funny to me. Now, just before we go any further, I'd like to point out about these batteries in Southern Ontario. Southern Ontario has got a couple of strategical things that everybody seems to forget. So at the one time, they're talking about how they're going to build that bridge into Detroit, into Michigan. And there was a reason that Detroit was the car capital, right? Because it has access to the St. Lawrence River. Like, you can put stuff on a boat and you can sail it out. And the bridge coming out of where they're building this factory in Southern Ontario is along the 401 corridor, so you can drive one way, you go into Michigan, like lower state Michigan, Detroit, or you go the other way, you pass through Buffalo and you're right into New York. So now you got two really large markets, right? And through Detroit, you get into the Midwest, and now you're into into the Western states, like California, where they use a lot of batteries. So I'm not 100% convinced that the corporations that are telling Trudeau whatever he wants to hear are going to be. They might, of course, they'll be hiring locals, so there's that. But I don't know that they're going to be trying to sell the product inside of Canada. They probably have their own projections on the matter. However, I will say this: in the current budget, which is a budget, which I find very strange, there is part 3 of the budget has a provision that says it's Division 3, Part 3 amends the Underused Housing Tax Act and the Underused Housing Tax Regulations by, among other things, eliminating filing requirements for certain owners, so you don't have to tell them you're using it or you're not using it, reducing the minimum penalties for failing to file a return. So if you are one of those companies that does have to tell them, you're not going to be fined as much for not telling them. And I love letter C, introducing a new exemption for residential properties held as a place of residence or lodging for employees. Now, you would only do that so you can tell yourself that it's one of those old mining company towns that they used to have back in the Appalachians, where the town owned the store, and they would just basically keep you in servitude for the rest of your life, which they do in a lot of countries, like in many places of India, for example. Probably China too, but I know for firsthand, like I've spoken to people that have done that in India. And the other thing, though, is that you only really do that if you're bringing in temporary foreign workers, right? You fly in a crew of people from Korea to do the job, and you need to give them a place to live. They don't barely speak the language. Not going to be able to look it up in the paper and do, Airbnb and all that stuff. I just find it amazing that they're talking about building all these houses in the same area that they're talking about building this battery plant, all the while giving the corporations the ability to buy them up en masse and turn them into rooming houses for their employees, which gives them so much power and so much control over not only City Hall, but also their employees, because now they own, not only do you work for them, but they own where you live. The Liberals are leaving this stuff out of the dialogue when they start talking to you about all of the tax breaks that they're giving you and all of the stuff that's going on. When they start talking about how they're doing such a wonderful job, they're leaving out there's a lot of stuff that they seem to be forgetting to mention, including the fact that they're giving Honda the ability to buy houses in Canada, and Volkswagen to buy houses in Canada, simply to put foreign workers in. Because if you live in this country, you're going to live in your house. You're not going to. There might be some people that'll say, okay, well, I'm going to move from, I don't know, Nunavik down into Southern Ontario, and they're going to give me a place to live. I could see that. But you're going to, on your first opportunity, move out and move into, you're going to find a place. If you're coming here from Germany or Korea or one of these temporary foreign workers, as they call them, you're not going to do that. You're going to finish the job and you're going to go home. So now all of this stock that they're talking about they're earmarking some of them for the corporations. In my opinion, there's no other reason to introduce that as part of the budget. There's no other reason to do that. I suppose it's possible that all of these rich guys have condos somewhere that they all are living in, and they're using them as tax shelters, but something tells me that that's not really residential properties held as a place of residence or lodging for employees. Does not sound like the same thing as a high-rise condo that I live in on Monday to Friday. In my opinion, I would encourage you to tell me what your opinion is down in the comments. Okay, I'm going to wrap here. I would encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this channel with your friends. Remember, I have memberships, and I've put up a link to for a GoFundMe to get some new equipment. All right. I'll talk to you next time.